Monitor you.
We're good. All right. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Troy City Council for Monday, September 16th. It is 7 p.m. You are in council chambers and my name is William Lutz, President of Council. Tonight we will begin the meeting with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance given by Mr. Pierce. Please stand.
Pierce in heaven, forgives our sins and heal our land. Consecrate ourselves in your holy name and abide with us forever. Open your eyes to us and we may hear what you have. Help us lead and make decisions that are good for our community. Help us have listening ears to the people that you've placed here in Troy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Mrs. Knight, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Twist.
Here.
Mr. Sievert.
Present.
Mr. Pierce.
Present.
Mrs. Snee. Here. Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Mr. Rozell.
Here.
Mr. Whidden.
Here.
Mr. Schilling.
Present.
Mrs. Marshall. Here. All members are present.
Mrs. Knight, will you please read a summary of the minutes of the September 5th, 2023 meeting of Troy City Council?
Minutes of Council, September 5, 2023. Committee reports. Community and Economic Development Committee recommended that ordinance number 041, 2023 be approved. That was amendments to the zoning code. The Finance Committee recommended that legislation be prepared declaring some items as surplus and authorizing their sale. Law and Ordinance Committee provided an oral report on some liquor license notices. Streets and Sidewalks Committee recommended legislation be prepared authorizing bidding for West Main Street Corridor Improvement Project Phase 2 at $8 million. Resolution number R47, 2023, advertised for bids and entered into a contract for the West Main Street Contract Phase 2, was given first reading and was adopted. Resolution number R48, 2023, authorizing tax levies to be approved, was given first reading and was adopted. Ordinance number 041, 2023, amending sections of the zoning code, was given third reading and adopted. Ordinance number 045, 2023, declaring some municipally owned property as surplus, no longer needed for municipal purposes, authorizing sale, first reading and adopted. Following comments, council adjourned at 7:14 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Thank you, Mr. Knight. House Council wishes to dispose of the minutes.
Move to adopt.
Second. It has been moved to adopt the minutes by Mr. Schilling, seconded by Mr. Rozell. Mrs. Knight, please call.
Mr. Sievert.
Yes.
Mr. Pierce.
Yes.
Mrs. Snee. Yes. Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Mr. Rozell.
Yes.
Mr. Whidden.
Yes.
Mr. Schilling.
Yes.
Mrs. Marshall. Yes. Mr. Twist.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. We have one committee report this evening from the Council Committee of the Whole, which I will give. This is regarding the September 11th, 2023 workshop regarding the intersection of West Main Street and Stanfield and Experiment Farm Roads. 8 members of Council and President of Council participated in the September 11th workshop regarding the West Main Street intersection with South Stanfield Road and Experiment Farm Road. Also attending were the Mayor, the City Auditor, the Director of Public Service and Safety, members of City staff, consultant representatives, and citizens. The purpose of the workshop was to provide Council with the results of the consultant study and recommendation for the construction of a roundabout at this intersection, with Council to provide feedback so staff would have direction as grant applications for some funding will be submitted yet this calendar year. Council directed staff to continue with design, budget, and other work on a future roundabout at this intersection. There will be future legislation related to this roundabout. There is conversation that efforts need to be continued to educate citizens regarding driving on a roundabout. Respectfully submitted, Mrs. Marshall, Mr. Rozell, Mr. Phillips, Mr. Pierce, Mr. Schilling, Mr. Sievert, Mrs. Snee, Mr. Twist, and Mr. Whidden. Are there any comments or questions on that report? Seeing none, if any residents have any comments on that report, you are invited to come to the podium, give your name and address council for 2 minutes. Seeing none, we have no resolutions this evening. We have no ordinances this evening, so we'll go directly into comments of officials. And Mayor Oda.
The only comment I have is to acknowledge a group of students from high school government class. You guys picked the wrong night to come to a council meeting because we have no agenda. However,
They picked the right.
or the right, yeah.
The right one.
Could be the shortest meeting ever, but we're going to hear a presentation on the school levy, which might be good for you to hear. You could report to your class on that. So, but welcome. And that's all.
Thank you, Mayor. Director of Public Service and Safety, Mr. Titterington.
Well, I just have 2 or 3 more meetings to announce and remind everyone that Trick or Treat is October 26th, 6 to 8 p.m. That's a Thursday. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Titterington. Director of Law, Mr. Kerber.
I have nothing this evening, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kerber. Mr. Friggy.
And I also have nothing this evening, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Friggy. Do any council members have any comments this evening? Mr. Pierce.
I want to, school resource officer in the high school for the incident that happened. He was quick to respond in it, and I know we helped to cover part of the cost of the school resource officer being there, and I'm very thankful for his bravery in the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Any other?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment.
Mr. Roselle.
I want to express our condolences to Tim Davis, our development director, and then ask that you all keep his family and his father in his prayers. His mother passed away really unexpectedly on Friday night.
Any other council members have any comments this evening?
Just real
Mr.
quick,
Seaver.
I just want to thank the people that attended the at-large council members, this little corner of the dais, and there were some members of the council who were there, and we appreciate that, and I see a number of familiar faces in the audience that were there, and we actually had 1 or 2 new people that hadn't been before that actually had issues that they brought to us, and hopefully we can address those issues. And as again, no legislation occurs, it's really just sort of a hi, how you doing out in the neighborhood type of event. But I think there's 12 people I counted, give or take. And so thanks to those that came, and you're welcome again in 90 days or so to come back.
Excellent.
Also, thank you to Patrick for the quick response on one of the issues that did come up on Saturday that you notified staff to check on. So,
All right. Any other council members have any comments? Do any city staff members have any comments? This is now time for audience participation. If you're a resident and you have a comment, please come to the podium, give your name and address, and take as much time as you wish to consume.
Hi, I'm Steve Henderson. I want to thank you for having the at-large meetings. I invite the rest of you to have an at-small meeting, too. I'm not kidding. We find out a lot more at those meetings. I think the council folks are a lot more relaxed, and I think you could get something out of it, and you probably get a bigger turnout than just a couple of people, okay? So it's just something to consider. I know it's not, is this an election year? I'm never quite sure. But even if it's not, you ought to have them periodically, just like the at-large members, okay? Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson.
Yeah, small members of that.
My name is Sarah Kleefhaus. I live at 505 Mumford Drive in Troy. Today, while driving my son to his football practice, I was crossing Main Street onto Adams Street. There's a lot of construction in that area. I was following all traffic laws. The light had just turned green, and I was proceeding through the traffic light, and I noticed the car in front of me bottom out as it was driving. There was a difference in pavement, about 6 inches, and it drove up over that, and I had enough time where I slowed down, and I wasn't speeding. I was just proceeding through the traffic light, and my car hit rather hard, and immediately following that, it started making a horrible noise. I managed to make it to the high school where I was dropping my son off, but then I had to call a tow truck, and now my car's in the shop, and it may not be ready until next week, and I am without a vehicle at this time. I wasn't doing anything illegal. It was not marked, and I just would like to know if there's any recourse, because frankly, I can't really afford a car repair bill at this time.
Mr. Tennington?
All I can ask, Ms. Cleefas, is if you leave your name and contact information with Mrs. Knight, we will follow up with our insurance company.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments this evening that they'd like to make? Seeing none, we will have a presentation at this time for the Citizens for Troy Schools on the upcoming school levy. If our audience will kindly give us a couple minutes so that we can get the audio visuals up and running, and we'll get started here in a moment.
We get to stand.
You have to stand.
No, I'm just, not at all.
No?
No.
I'll scoot down one.
What do I go to the actual slideshow at? Yeah, we'll make it work. That's all right. This isn't a PDF form, but I can still just scroll through it. It won't be as clean, but we'll make it work. So, I'm sorry, Ben Peppelman, 2382 Cara Drive in Troy. But Mayor Oda, Council President Lutz, City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you. As stated, my name is Ben Peppelman. My wife and I have lived in Troy for about 17 years, and so before I kind of dive into the presentation as a whole, I'd like to kind of give a little bit of background, not only on myself. I'd like to explain kind of my purpose statement or my why statement as to why I'm involved, why I'm in front of you today, but also kind of some of the background as to what the council has done thus far to get us to where we're at this point in time. So as I said, my wife and I have lived in Troy for about 17 years, 3 boys. One's a freshman. I have twin boys that are in the junior high, 7th grade, and love Troy, chose it for a multitude of reasons. But one of the things that stuck out to us was without a doubt, the aging school system. And kind of what reintroduced it to me was about 4 or 5 years ago, went to a parent-teacher meeting at Concord, a nice, cool August day on the 3rd floor of Concord. And as I walked in, sat down in the meeting, within 3 to 4 minutes, to say I was appalled at the conditions I was forced to sit in, not to mention what our kids would have been exposed to, is an understatement. So much so that I actually felt compelled to get on social media, which I try to make not common practice, and kind of just state my thoughts as to what I had was exposed to in there. So allow me to read what I'd posted, again, 3-4 years ago. For those who may have voted against any recent new school levy, I challenge you to go to the 3rd floor of Concord and spend a day there during the warmer months. I have no idea how anybody could truly learn in that type of inferno. It wasn't just hot, it was oppressive. Our kids deserve better, our teaching staff deserves better, Troy deserves better, we need to do better. And with that passionate post, I talked myself into a job, and I'm standing in front of you today. So this committee was formed roughly 6-7 months ago. The original thought process was that we'd have about 16 months. The OFCC told us we were number 3 on the list, which meant we did not have guaranteed state funding. We thought we could take a leisurely pace into learning about past levies, the feedback from community, and so forth. But not too long after we got started, we were notified by the FCC that we went from number 3 on the list to number 1, meaning several things. One is that there was guaranteed state money on the line. And also, with that, it left us essentially a very short period of time, essentially a couple weeks, to finalize and present our plan to the school board for approval. Thankfully enough, the information that was posted or was given to us was relatively easy to digest. Our committee was and is still fully prepared and knowledgeable to make educated recommendations given the tight timeline. A very specific instance of this was in the meeting where we sat to give the proposal. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of questions being presented, which we appreciated, and one of which was the three, myself and two other individuals, all being business owners or executives in their company. We were asked specifically if you were presented with the same situation, being having to make a $150 million judgment or decision in a matter of a couple weeks, would our companies do that? And resoundingly, without hesitation, we all said yes. That if somebody was willing to come and inject 30% capital into a project, that our bosses would lock us in the room and tell us to figure it out. And without a doubt, that's exactly what we did. Let me scroll down here. So, with that, you'll see a couple things. It's it is a community-led initiative. It's our steering committee. There's a couple that are here with me today, but myself, Bart Demlinger, Molly Suber, Alicia Wheeler, Kathy Roeder, Laura Raske, and Laura Rayner are on the steering committee. A couple of things I'd like to point out with that. As I had mentioned, it is a community-led initiative. The importance of that is that we got a lot of feedback from past levies, past individuals involved with the levies, and there was just some mistrust that was going on. So we wanted to make sure that first and foremost that this was without a doubt being driven by community members. It's not city council, it's not school members, it's not city members, City of Troy members pushing it. These are all community members. To kind of dive into this a little bit more, I couldn't be more proud of everybody. We're all have full-time jobs, full-time commitments, kids in sports. Everything that we've done thus far is taken away from that. So I couldn't be more proud of everybody and the work that they've put in thus far to get us to where we're at today. Scrolling down, so the plan, don't need that. That is not the plan. The plan is a 6.96 mil combined levy. Combined being two parts, 4.66 mils for 37 years. That is for the new construction of the schools. 2.3 mils over 29 years. That's in two parts. The state requires us to put on a half mil for maintenance of the new facility. And then the remainder, 1.8 mil, is infrastructure improvements for the high school. I'd like to focus and then touch on later the words of infrastructure improvements at the high school. It includes 4 new elementary schools. It also includes major infrastructure updates to the high school, and then the culmination of both of these is to provide equitable, inclusive, and high-quality education for all the students. One thing that's really important to touch on, and I'll mention it a couple times throughout here, is the major infrastructure updates. The reason why that is important is twofold. One is that our high school has to stay relevant for the next 30 years. And what I say that is that once we pass this levy, our debt-to-income ratio is going to be skewed to where we cannot take another loan out to build more schools for another 30 years. So major infrastructure, and again, I'll touch on this more, but this is not just air conditioning in the high school. This is major infrastructure, meaning electrical, HVAC, energy-efficient lightings, and HVAC being air conditioning and heating. So want to touch on that, and I'll circle back around to it as well. Another really important thing that we definitely took away when we first started our committee was facts, and how there appeared to be a lot of misinformation out there from past levies. Obviously, social media has compounded that significantly. So one thing that we absolutely have focused on is not only transparency, but trust and facts. So as we're presenting these, everything that we are presenting has gone through a marketing firm. They have actually gone and done their due diligence as well to make sure that what we're stating is accurate. Fact number one, the average age of our elementary schools is 81 years old. The national average is 42. I'm going to take that one step farther and ask you to, challenge you to stop and think about all the surrounding communities around us, namely Piqua, Troy, or Piqua, Tip, Miami East, Newton. They all have significantly younger, newer schools. I think to the ballpark of any of the ones that were connected to or surrounding Troy, I think the average was somewhere in the mid-20s. Again, that's not a rock-hard fact, but it's pretty close, somewhere in the mid-20s. So without a doubt, that is putting Troy at a disadvantage when you're looking at people moving in and surveying our school systems compared to the surrounding ones. So the scope of work, as I had mentioned, is 4 new elementary schools. We are very generically calling these the East Elementary School, which will be pre-K through 4, the North Elementary School, again pre-K through 4, and the West Elementary School, again pre-K through 4, and then also the South Middle School, which will be 5th and 6th grade. And again, kind of touching on the scope of work, in the high school upgrade, that does include also something I did not mention was asbestos abatement. Again, major electrical upgrades, including energy efficient lighting, and then complete HVAC renovation. Again, that school has to be relevant for the next 30 years. Furthermore, in the scope of work is abate, demolish, or reuse. One thing that we did not feel was extremely well laid out in the past was what is going to happen with the existing sites. So with that, we are clearly stating that they will be abate, demolished, and reused, or returned to green space. So Haywood, Kyle, Van Cleve, and Concord will be abated, demolished, returned to green space. The current Hook and Cookson sites will be abate, demolished, and they will reuse those sites. And then the plan right now is to keep forest for alternative learning programs. As I scroll down, you can see our current footprint with the schools, abate, demolish said sites, abate, demolish, reuse. So this is the proposed plan that we've set forth. You'll notice that one thing is that the plan that we're presenting is not that far off from the plan that was presented 3 years ago that failed. My argument to that would be is that it's really not. However, it was a pretty good site. One thing that we took into consideration, though, was the feedback from community members that they wanted to keep intact as much as possible the neighborhood schools. So with that, we decided to flip the North Elementary School site and the South Middle School site. Those initially were flipped in opposite directions. We put those back to what you're currently seeing now. And with stating that, taking into consideration that we have guaranteed state funding, which I'll touch on here in a second, and hopefully not going into another pandemic, without a doubt, compared to the last time, without a doubt, I think this is Troy's best chance of passing the levy thus far. Just really quickly, I wanted to kind of show a rough graphic of what the proposed sites would look like. It's really hard to see on the projector, but if you kind of see where the pointer's at, that's the existing footprint right now of the Hook site. So this would be the proposed North Elementary School site. Again, outlined in red is the existing building. You'll note, or you'll see that there's no place to put the students, so that's another point of contention of if we were to go to a different plan is how you would actually handle the current enrollment. With this one, we can leave the school standing, we can build behind or beside, get the students moved over, and then completely demolish. The East Elementary School, again, proposed site. To the bottom left is the existing footprint, and kind of hard to see, of the Cookson site. Concord, no existing schools to contend with, so construction would be a little bit easier there. And then the 5th and 6th grade proposed site on Swales. One thing I wanted to point out, and this was just due to some negative feedback that we had, not even really negative feedback, some call it fake news if you want to call it that, what we had gotten in years past was that the school was going to be built on and in an existing floodplain. That's not accurate. If you look to the far right, that's actually where the floodplain, where the waterway is at. The floodplain extends to kind of the far corner. Does part of the property Is it in a floodplain? Absolutely. Is anything from the school going to be built in that floodplain? No. So one of the things when I spoke in front of the teachers and I proposed this right away is we call it the elephant in the room. I actually mentioned this, I think the third slide in was I could present the world's best plan, but what are the teachers how are they going to buy in if they don't know how they're actually going to be affected? Again, one thing that wasn't clearly stated in past was how many school officials are going to lose their jobs once they consolidate. We're going from several, we're going to have a footprint of several less buildings. We're confident enough in the plan to go forward and actually put it in writing. And I'm not going to read it to you guys can take it on your own to do that, but essentially the statement is that there's the same amount of students that are going to be taught, so we're not going to have less teachers. Are there going to be less support staff? Absolutely. They will not be fired. We can do that through retirement and resignations, through attrition. And in stating that, these are the numbers from the last 3 years to kind of show, certified, classified, to actually show the numbers and how we actually can get to that number through attrition. And felt pretty comfortable once we addressed that in a room of every teacher in Troy. I saw a lot of people kind of sit back and kind of relax. I think that addressed a lot of their major concerns that they had. So fact 2, with the passage of the levy, the state will contribute $45.6 million to this project. This is what's different than the past levies, is this is guaranteed state funding. In the past, that was never the case. One really important thing that I want to stress and point out to this is we have 2 voting cycles to pass this levy. If we don't, we drop off the OFCC's list on number 1 and number 2 preferred school systems, of which means we also forgo the $45.6 million. In short term, what I'm saying is if we don't pass it in the next 2 voting cycles, we forgo 30% funding or $45.6 million for our school systems. A quick snippet of where the funding is coming from. In the red is state funding, and the light gray, kind of hard to see, is from business, and then the residential and agricultural market will pick up the remainder. Fact 3. Homeowners will pay just $20.30 per $100,000 in home value. So kind of a little redundant here, but I feel like these are points that are worth stressing is why is this levy so important? Strong schools are the backbone of the community. Strong schools equal a strong community. We hear that people don't want to pay extra money for taxes. Totally get it, neither do I. However, this is the best plan to optimize our hard-earned money with the utilization of state dollars. Again, we use it or lose it. If we don't pass it in the next 2 voting cycles, we lose 30% in value. I'll go a step farther with that. I'm in the construction-related industry. Nothing is getting cheaper. So the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost the taxpayers. Touching on, especially after what happened on Friday, the safety of our children and staff. And then also, again, the overall goal is to provide equitable, inclusive, and high-quality education for all of our students. The election cycle, what does it look like moving forward? October 10th, we have a lot of work to do in pretty short order, but we're absolutely up to the task. October 10th is the voter registration deadline. October 11th is early in-person voting. And then November 7th is the general election day. One thing for those that might be interested, you'll find this QR code posted all over. If you'd like to get involved, we'd love to have you. You're welcome to scan that now. It's on some literature that we can gladly pass out at the end. With that, it leads me into this, is we need your help. We need the financial contributions. We need your time. We need your vote, yes. You can follow us on our social media, our website. On there's an FAQ that it's a fluid sheet, but we are pointing people in those directions as misinformation is coming out. We're pointing them to try to help correct that in pretty short order. And then the same thing with there's a volunteer list as well. Like I said, please, hence the QR code. Please sign up. We need the help. The committee is a small committee, but as we get out in the community and get in front of these individuals, it just takes more and more people. And again, if you have questions, our on the website and Facebook page is where we're also steering everybody as they have questions, so that way there's one unified response back. They're getting a response back from a committee member. And so with that, I'll leave you with this. Our kids deserve better, our teaching staff deserves better, Troy deserves better, we need to do better. We need to trust the facts, plan for progress, and let's help shape Troy's future for tomorrow. Our time is now. Please vote yes for the school levy. Thank you. And then with that, I guess being respectful of our time and everybody else's time as well, I'll take a couple short questions. Other than that, I'll kind of point everybody to our Gmail account should they have questions above and beyond a couple of them. Can I answer any questions?
I just want to say one thing that I heard you brought up before about schools, our neighbor schools in other communities that are newer, that haven't received state funding. And I think it's important that citizens know that we've paid for those schools, now it's our turn to get some of that money back.
Absolutely. And we talk about that a lot, and some people feel it's a scare tactic, but it's not the truth. We have paid for every other school system we go in around here. It's time that we use our money. It's going to go somewhere anyway. Let's bring it back. Great point. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Poppins.
Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Coming to the end of our agenda this evening. Thank you for attending. This meeting is adjourned.